Good afternoon. Just want to share a quick thought with you, real quick. Good afternoon. So I'm reading this book. This book was recommended by the Tim Ferriss podcast, and it will be an understatement to say it's life changing, life saving, to put it mildly. Uh, Awareness by Anthony DeMello. I finished it this morning and I started over again. I'm on chapter 11 out of, it's like 60 chapters in this audiobook. Book, rather. Um, it's some of the most simplest doctrines that you ever encounter, and yet is exactly what I needed. The main thing I want to talk about today, there's so many principles I took from this. As I go through it again for the second time, I'll be tweeting out things that stand out to me. So definitely follow me on Twitter. But yeah, the main thing that I really want to emphasize real quick on this live, something that I did not know I was doing for the longest. It's amazing how it was brought to my attention. Think about this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us can relate to this, especially us men. Identifying with anything that is temporary in nature is long-term poison. To rephrase, and again, these are not direct quotes. These are how I am interpreting them. He spoke to how when you begin to identify with either success or failure, you are a ticking time bomb. Because the second that you operate in an area that you're not accustomed to, such as failure in most cases, it will destroy you. And it's almost like it was waiting for you to just hit that one moment where you weren't prepared, where you weren't at your highest. You weren't on the peak, mountaintop. And that's when you fall. That's the place I'm in currently. That is the place I'm in currently. It's one of the most humbling positions you can ever be in. And I'm forcing myself to talk about it. Obviously for documentation purposes. But the fact that many of you who are coming behind me, you're on my same trajectory. Especially if you follow this channel, because a lot of us think the same way. That's why a lot of you are here. It's because you kind of think like me. We have a similar thought pattern. Avoiding big mistakes, avoiding small mistakes. We tend to overthink everything. We like to analyze. We like to get it right the first time. No mistakes. And again, like just as I'm talking, honestly, this is the loudest, the longest I've talked all day. I've just been thinking. I've been inside my head. But yeah, quotes are coming to mind. Just so. My personal journey. When I joined the Air Force, it was one of the biggest leaps, one of the biggest adjustments I've ever made in my life. Especially after having set down roots in Clarksville, Tennessee. That was supposed to be where I was going to, set down roots and possibly start a family or a different career. I planned on going to college when I went there. A lot of things happened with that. But after coming to the conclusion that I was going to leave, I kind of set my mind on this new path, that this is what I'm going after. And so with that, I thought everything through. I tried to plan for every little variable possible. And up to this point in my life, everything's happened according to plan. Here's the issue with that. Basic training, honor grad, academic excellence, tech school. BTZ, senior airman, making staff first time. For me, those were huge milestones. So those were just, you know, for me, again, it was an option to win. And so with that, it's hard to enter a place where you are incompetent by your own definition. And again, I believe I talked about this in my first stream in regards to mental health. When we put pressure on ourselves to behave a certain way or to excel in a certain manner, that when we don't live up to it, it tends to only be us that's trying to enforce a certain level of, achievement. It's me putting the pressure on myself. Speaking to the therapist about it, I'm like, I don't know how to turn that off. I don't know how to just be, whatever. And that's what this book, again, the title is Awareness by Anthony DeMello. This book is really emphasizing the fact that it really doesn't matter. What is success? What is success? And again, there's a lot of part of this, there's a lot of areas that I struggle to understand the overarching, moral, because we live on Earth. We live in America. We live wherever we live. And in order to pay bills, you must be a certain measure of successful, in your given career field or, wherever you work. You can't just be bad and expect to just, no, I'm being aware. I'm not focusing on success. I'm not focused on the end result. There has to be a balance in there. Something my therapist pointed out to me is that I struggle with nuance and finding the balance between opposing extremes. I tend to be absolute in my thinking, where it's either all in or just nothing. It's either fasting or I'm eating all the junk food. No, you don't have to do that. It's either be the top of the Air Force and just be the best at everything, ultimate blue, or get out. No, there has to be a balance somewhere where you seek homeostasis of the mind, if you will. So yeah, he really spoke to how a lot of things that we put pressure on ourselves to achieve, it does not matter. It does not make us happy. And the fact that we desire to constantly stay in that place of either constantly achieving, constantly, just constantly being the best at something or constantly being praised at something, it's a drug. And that's the part, it blew my mind, honestly. And that's why I'm going back through it so I can point out a lot of these different quotes. How we treat praise of others as a drug. So when we don't achieve, and in those moments where we're not at our best, or we're in a phase of learning or growth, and we don't get that drug, we don't get that praise from someone, we go through withdrawals, depression, anxiety. In my case, it's both. It's crazy. I'm like, Brett, I'm going through withdrawals. That's what it is. I'm so used to being the guy, him, that now I'm in a place where, no, the drug's not available. I'm detoxing. He talks about, and obviously the title of the book is Awareness. And when I was in the inpatient facility, that's all they kept talking about was just awareness. Just be aware. Be present in the moment. Smell the air. Touch the table. Taste your breath. Just your senses, essentially. I'm like, got it, bro. Like, you guys haven't gone below the surface. Please talk to me heavy. Tell me to be present over and over again. I'm like, cool, I got you. And then, as time progresses, because of course my emails were still piling up. Thankfully, they're back at 0 now. Jesus. But as time progresses, you still reach a point where you still know you have responsibilities. There's a quote that tends to, I agree with it wholeheartedly. A lot of things aren't your fault, but they're still your responsibility. That's my case, where I may be out of the seat, I may be out of the office, I may be off base somewhere, but I still got responsibilities, even if the reason I left the base wasn't my fault. Still got responsibilities. And a lot of that can create anxiety as well, where you're completely in a different place, have no access to the problem at hand, and you're still thinking about it. Well, awareness and being aware of that anxiety, being aware of those triggers that is causing you to feel a certain way. It's what I'm practicing right now. You know, the knots in my stomach that I always speak about, that worry feeling, that dread. When it comes, think about it. Don't try to fix it. That when I read that, I was like, you're telling me to observe a leaking ceiling and do not try to fix it. That seems to be my entire career, my entire life, in most cases, and especially when I joined the military, where you just see inefficiencies and you can't do anything about it. And you bring it up to leadership, and you're like, bro, this is just, that's not, why are we using paper in 2021? Why are we still, the system doesn't, why is there so much friction between sending money here, moving money over here? Why is all this paper required to pay a single bill when I pay my bills automatic? I don't even pay my bills. They just come out. The money just comes out. And on a daily basis, I am getting frustrated at just about all these leaking things I can't control. And I want them fixed. Because I'm like, it's affecting my peace to have to write a 10-page paper to send you $2. That's crazy. It's crazy. But for me, it's a cause of anxiety to be in an environment where it does not fit what I deem acceptable. I, in most cases, am the source of my own anxiety. Stuff I worry about, like, it's your fault you feel this way. I went all day today, no one spoke to me, and yet I had anxiety. No one, was pressing me. Where's this at, Isaiah? You do this? No, nobody pressed me. And it's why I'm going back through the book, because I clearly need to embrace. And now, of course, there's some bones in this that I'll be spitting back out, but there's a lot of chicken too. But yeah, I'm in a place where I'm just practicing being aware, just being simple. Stop overwhelming myself with trying to fix the world. There's enough at home to address, But yeah, back to what I was really originally talking about. Identifying with anything that is outside of yourself. Compliments. Constructive criticism. Destructive criticism. Name calling. It's crazy. Like, we will take just about anything somebody throws at us and just kind of put on the mantle of, thereof. It has nothing to do with you. It is very dangerous to live, in pursuit of anything that is not organic to yourself. Meaning my pursuit of praise, my pursuit of achievement, my pursuit of what I call success, my pursuit of a certain dollar amount, the ideal car for a YouTube channel, all this pressure, if you guys notice, I'm still kind of in between of whether or not I'm going to continue the second channel, because if I looked at my reasoning of having a second channel, it was fear. And again, this book covers when I was reading this, I was finishing the book this morning, and it'll be like just every line I went down. Obviously, it's an audio book, but just with every paragraph, with every chapter, it was just unlocking one piece of my anxiety of, that extra work that you're doing with that second channel, and it's not even monetized. Like, obviously, it takes time to grow another channel, but the fact that I knew the reasoning why I was doing it, it's fear-based, because I wanted to diversify my content and have it separated properly. But it caused a level of anxiety. Kill it. So no, we're back to one channel. And of course, this is me just kind of branching out, trying things. But of course, one must address the reasoning behind what they're doing. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Who is pressuring me? Where's the pressure coming from to do anything? You know, why must I be, on 10 constantly and just trying to, every area of my life, I just got to be the best and I just got to compete with everybody. It's a disease. And you'll know it is when you don't get to act in that similar manner that you're accustomed to. Be in a position where your main response is, I don't know. It's one of the most humbling positions to be in, especially when it's long term. Especially when you're accustomed to having all the answers. When you love studying, you love learning, and people come to you with questions, and it's not so much that you have answers, you just have a unique perspective. So you get to a place where you enjoy reading the comments because you know it's going to be something, akin to, oh, that's interesting, oh, that's pretty good, or you start getting attached to it. To like, it's the same thing that we ridicule other people for getting likes on Instagram and what have you. YouTubers the same thing. You grow accustomed to praise, to winning, to competing. And one question he kept asking, he was like, what does it matter? And of course, I kind of added on to it. What does it matter if you're unhappy? What does it matter? And again, the book's called Awareness, Anthony DeMello. What does it matter? We go in pursuit of all these things that just wreaks havoc on our body and our mind. And then we may even get it and then realize this wasn't worth it. When I was in Orlando, and I tried a Wagyu beef steak, $80. $80 for a piece of meat. And when I tell you it tastes like a glorified hamburger, it wasn't worth it. When I drove a Lamborghini in Beverly Hills, the thing is bumpy as hell. No suspension. I'm like, bro, what kind of $250,000 car is this, bro? Huracan? No suspension? You feel every single bump? Can't fit in it? It's like driving a go-kart. Sounds amazing. Looks amazing. But it's just uncomfortable. All these things that, we subconsciously pursue, and then when we end up getting it, it's not even worth it. I'm in this place where I'm just putting the brakes on a lot of things. Just putting the brakes on a lot of things. The moment you realize that you can't have everything, but you'll end up you'll lose everything in pursuit of trying to get everything, you realize it's too much. It's too much. It's time to slow down. What matters? What is the point? What is the meaning of everything? The big philosophical questions. Why am I going in pursuit of everything when I can't have everything? No one can. And then I'll end up losing everything I have in pursuit of everything I can't have. That's delusion. Stupidity. Now, I can't say that I'm in that place completely. I don't want to completely throw myself under the bus, but there are a lot of areas, and especially in this book, where he was reading me the riot act. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? For what? For what? What does it matter? What is your ultimate goal? Once you achieve that, for what? He spoke about just being aware of life. Again, it's quite broad in nature. But if you think about that, one quote I posted on Twitter already, he spoke about how we worry so much about what happens after life that we don't live life before death. What happens after death? We spend so much time worrying about what happens after death that we don't worry about living our life. I don't know. I'm going to Allison tomorrow. Get some things off my chest. Here's a question from the Gotash. I'll assume you're referring to Kobe. How can I distinguish what is worth pursuing when I have a lot of things I desire? That's the issue that I'm struggling with. Because, first of all, one must ask the question, where does your desires come from? Where does desire, you know, I believe it was the Buddhists that, they spend most of their efforts resisting and trying to eradicate desire. But where does desire come from? Because the simple question would be, if you have children, do you desire to be with your children? Do you desire the best for your children? Obviously, semantics comes into to play, especially in regards to how the English language is utilized. But where does desire come from? Why do we want things? And of course, the motives come into play. Wisdom, obviously, is where you would start, especially in regards to just discerning difference. The difference between something worth pursuing, the difference between something that you just simply want or desire. What is the difference between the two? The difference in motives. Am I trying to impress someone over here? Not that that's completely wrong, because sometimes you do have to impress someone. You go to an interview, you're supposed to impress the person that you want to hire you. When I was in the group, they're constantly making these. I think it was a whole lesson based on not caring what other people think. And I'm like, are y'all serious? We should never care what somebody thinks. So when I go to an interview and I dress up and I bring a beautiful resume and I brush my mouth and I hygiene that day and I show up on time, is that not in pursuit of someone's thoughts and how I can adjust those and first impression, reputation, last impression, all based on what someone thinks about me? Am I not polite? Do I show honor, respect? Is that not all in pursuit of what someone thinks about me? Obviously, it can be a benefit to you yourself as far as you doing the right thing, because doing the right thing typically is its own reward. But of course, we live in a world where we need people. We need other people. And so to not care what someone thinks about you is quite reckless in nature. So yeah, that's a very good question. How can I distinguish what is worth pursuing when I have a lot of things I desire? That's, again, it's something I'm studying right now myself. So I'm not the person to preach on this stuff. But if I were to think it out the way I typically do, I will start with wisdom, and I will look at my motives. I will look at long-term motivations of why I'm pursuing something, and then what happens when I get it. There are too many examples of people who are rich and are miserable. Poor people who smile. Today at lunch, walking through the line, and the lady serving me, the most cheerful, most polite, most upbeat personality, or I don't know, maybe her energy was just high, maybe she was just motivated that day, but she's working in a service industry, serving me food, and just happy, or at least seemingly happy. And I'm sitting there just... And of course, the question comes to my mind is, why is she happy? Not that it's bad, it's just I'm curious to the foundation. Like, why do we have rich people killing themselves? Antidepressants, drugs, alcohol. Anthony Bourdain. I would love a job where people watch me eat. That's what YouTube is. It's just, you're a YouTuber, except you just go around the world eating whatever you want. But again, there's stuff going on behind the scenes that, a lot of people just don't have meaning. A lot of people don't have a well-built foundation where it can support desires. Meaning they have their needs. Because a lot of us just pursue what we want, and our needs are lacking. I noticed that victory is within us. I asked the question a while back. I'm like, why do, most people go on vacation, and you look at where people go, what they're doing. The average vacation, if you look at Instagram and just type in vacation or vacation vibes or whatever hashtag you choose, somewhat affiliate with vacation, and you look at what the majority of people do on vacation, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, for me a month, like just what do people do on leave or vacation? They go sit next to water. Might be a resort, might be a random beach in the Pacific, but they go sit near water. They go in the water. And they do various things surrounding water. Then they go back to the sand. They go sleep in, go eat some good food, back to the water, pool, resort, drinks. Beautiful destinations surrounding nature. Yes, there's New York City vacations. Yes, there's Singapore and Tokyo, all these amazing cities that you could have amazing vacation in. But if you look at the majority of America, like the average Joe, the middle class, you see there's a pattern. People tend towards simplicity on their vacations. The question is why? We will spend 52 weeks just working, grinding. And then we get the 2 weeks back and they say, I'm going to go spend this next to a pool. A hole in the ground with water in it. Or I'll go sit next to the ocean, sit in somebody's sand, and just sit next to this big body of water. There has to be some truth to the fact that humans overall, in most cases, value simplicity and time. Obviously, you need resources to support those two. So, of course, my equation, time plus resources equals options. And it's why I've been kind of just thinking about the question of me getting out of the military is, I have options. Why should I stay in? If I'm miserable, if I'm unhappy, what other options have I yet to pursue? Why must I stay here and just grind, trying to get that 20-year retirement? The question is it worth it? Back to the original question. I desire to have a regular check the rest of my life. But what would I have to do? What would I have to sacrifice in order to get it? Is it worth it? Will it be worth it to pursue something for 20 years straight if I'm unhappy for that entire 20 years? Maybe I get out, go do something I enjoy doing, and I don't get a guaranteed check the rest of my life, but I smile every single day. I laugh and joke, and I hang and I work with people I love and people I enjoy being around. There's more risk associated with it. Might lose a little stability. The economy's not the best right now. Obviously, Texas is taking L's right now. Trust me, I was going through my phone just trying to think how many people I know that live in Texas. My mom's down there, my sister's down there, my boy from high school is down there. Who else is down there? Probably a lot of y'all in tech school or basic training. Texas, a lot of people I know down there. My boy just got out the army, and you would think there's better times to get out the military, but again, it's back to what really matters. Do I want to smile on a daily basis, or do I want to just come here for a check? What am I willing to do for a check? What am I willing to sacrifice for a check? For some money. The happiest time of my life was when I was broke, playing piano 3 hours a day, Sundays, had the rest of the time off, and I was happy. I was happy. It's just a place you have to come to. It was one of his quotes. He mentioned how there will come a time in your life where you will get tired, you will get exhausted of doing something over and over again for no return spiritually. Some people have to destroy just be destroyed emotionally before they realize, all right, maybe this is not it. You stay in that relationship long enough, you're just like, all right, maybe this is not it. But you wasted 3 years. I don't know. It's not always hard to leave. I can say the same thing for the military. It's not a decision I will make quickly. I'm like, bro, I already invested almost 5 years, 15 more. Hmm. But then I think about how I feel when I wake up in the morning. I'm like, bro, is this worth it, bro? I don't know. I wish I had more tweets prepared because I would just talk about each one. But yeah, I really just want to share the book with y'all. I wanted to finish it before I spoke on it. But yeah, I'm reading through it again. I'll probably read it a couple more times this week. It's such a simple book, but I mean, some of the biggest problems we have simple solutions. Another thing you said, if you want it too badly, you're in trouble. If you want it too badly, you're in trouble. You break your back trying to get something, ultimately to get it or not get it, but be dissatisfied in the end. You climb the mountain, you realize there's nothing up there. That's what the rat race is. The rat race consists of people climbing mountains and realizing there is nothing up there. Just air, emptiness, despair. I don't know, people. I don't know. But yeah, today, I try to practice it. Especially in regards to just being aware, just practicing observation, practicing just observing the room, observing how I feel, what I hear, smell, etc. And of course, it works long enough to distract you from yourself because typically anxiety is just it's an extreme focus, a concentrated focus on yourself. It's just a woe is me. I'm depressed. I'm dealing with this, and again, I have a newfound, just a newfound care, if you will, or ability and willingness to empathize, mercy, with those who deal with anxiety and depression, especially those who deal with anxiety and there's no clear cause to it. It's just panic. I'm pretty good at kind of finding the source of a lot of my issues and like kind of tracing it back. But there's some people who just panic attack. There it is. No reasoning, no triggers, just worry, dread. I can empathize. But yeah, this is simply my journey of trying, of going in search of wisdom, of answers. I listen to so many different mentors today, along with this book. I'm reading several other books as well. Diving in, the psychology of, trauma and how the left brain and right brain tend to separate during traumatic events. Very interesting stuff. And of course, there seems to be evidence for it, especially when I look at my own life. There seems to be a lot of evidence for just how I handle trauma and how I deal with struggle and how I deal with not being in control. That's probably the biggest thing. It's just I don't like not being in control of everything, of every variable, of every person in my life, of my environment, the temperature, of who's wrong, who's right, of the rules, who can cheat, who can't cheat. What are we doing next? What are we gonna eat? When are we going home right now? Can I go to sleep right now? I like being in control. And there again, it's a drug. It's a drug. It's a luxury. Because when you don't have it, how do you handle that? How do you handle not being the best? Not being in the top 10%? Not knowing how to do your job? Having to ask for help on everything? That's one thing a lot of people don't know about you probably have to go there to figure it out or to realize that. But the inpatient facility I went to, you have to ask for everything. Everything from your toothbrush to your drawers. If you wanted a fan to sleep with at night. Anything you need, you have to ask for it. And one thing that it kind of drills into you is it's going to break your dependency on self, of isolation, of you're in an environment where you have no choice but to ask for help. And by doing so, you're able to ask for help in other areas because you've worked that muscle so much while you're there that when you leave, you know, whether or not you're ashamed or not, whether or not you're embarrassed, you ask for help. You've been practicing long enough. I see a couple questions here. Let me see if I can play some games. That's a good question, Mr. Lee. Dave Lee asks, "Hey Raymond, first of all, thank you for making these videos. When you talk about happiness, do you feel that joining the Air Force was one of the factors that makes you feel unhappy?" I have to say no. The Air Force solves a problem. It's kind of like a hammer, a ladder, vacuum cleaner. They're tools. So I'm indifferent to the Air Force. I don't feel a sense of loyalty. I feel a sense of investment. The Air Force doesn't make me happy or unhappy. There are certain variables within the system because, again, like when I was deployed, I was happy. You know, when I get paid, I'm happy. It's very temporary though. One thing he talks about in the book, he calls thrills. He replaces the word happiness with thrill, where it's like a roller coaster where you're up, then you're down, you're up. That's not happiness. I heard a quote a while back that said, "Happiness is a state or eternal state." How do you say it? Anyway, everyone's trying to sell you happiness, a state of being that is free. And, you know, in part, I agree with it, sort of disagree with it as well. But if you think about the quote itself and, like, don't try to analyze it too much, that's another one of my problems, just analyzing too much. Just observe it. Just think. But, no, don't try to break everything down, try to prove everything wrong. There's a place for that. Probably science or philosophy, what have you, but yeah, the Air Force doesn't make me unhappy. Joining the Air Force did not make me unhappy. For the first couple of years, it was amazing. It was dope. I was on cloud. I was at the top. But, you know, and honestly, if you look at my channel, I have some videos about how when you enter that middle phase, that E5, E4, E6, there's a wall waiting for you. And I hit it head on knowing it was there. You know. Because in the first phases of the military, you have basic training. Then you graduate. But you know how long basic training is? You have graduation. Tech school. You know how long tech school is? Graduation. You get to your first base, BTZ-ish. It's available. So, I mean, that can count as like a milestone. But for the most part, when you hit your first base, that's when you begin the marathon of just a long, drawn-out sentence of you're waiting for the next big thing to happen. Deployment or PCS. Either one happens. You might get BTZ in the meantime, or you might promote to senior airman or whatever. But yeah, staff, it's the same thing. PCSing is the same concept where you enter a new phase where there are no major milestones. It's just kind of a long stretch of desert that you just got to be consistent in. You can't sprint it. You can't start walking. You just have to be consistent with whatever you're doing in that long phase. 2 years before you test for STEC, or 2 years before you can test for tech sergeant. Jesus. But yeah, it's just a long, drawn-out period where you must stay consistent. And regret waits on those that don't. And within that phase, you know, you deal with questioning everything you're dragging with you. You know, your car might be full of all types of stuff. Your house full of all types of stuff that you think you need until it's time to move. And you realize, why do I have all this stuff? How do I have all this stuff? Where did all this stuff come from? It's one thing to just have it in your house and put it in the closet and just lock it away and buy some organizers. And, oh, that closet is perfectly organized. But when it's time to move, and you got to pack everything you own into a car or to a U-Haul, all of a sudden it's a different conversation of hoarding and necessity, essentialism. Good question. Happiness is such an abstract concept. We don't know what it is, but we know it when we feel it. And we know it when we don't feel it. It's a good question. Do you treat life as a rehearsal, hoping you can get good at it, or do you take the risks head on and roll with the punches? I would probably have to be the former. I don't like making mistakes. I don't like punches because life doesn't play fair. Life doesn't give you a bunch of chances. It's not a video game where you can just pop back up, go back at it, try again, respawn. I'm like, no, it's not how that works. So I tend to like to be prepared with whatever I do. Hence the drought I'm in currently, because I wasn't able to prepare for the phase I'm in currently. I'll have to defend myself and say it's not due to fault of my own, but it's just how life punched. It's just the cards I was dealt, and now I have to deal with it. So yeah, it's honestly is a mixture, because a lot of times pain plans itself. Life will throw things at you, and you just have to take it, deal with it, fix it. But in those cases where you have time to prepare, you have time to build yourself up, you must do that. One of the quotes I live by, and I take to heart, is that some mistakes are immediately fatal. Some punches are immediately fatal. There's some lines you can't cross and just come back, when you feel like it. So wisdom is imperative. It's why, like, even while I'm struggling now, thoughts from all over the place will bombard you randomly, right after lunch or right before lunch, or right after the first business meeting or like staff meeting that morning. Thoughts will hit you, and it's up to you to realize, all right, these are thoughts. I agree with a lot of them, but wisdom tells me, all right, maybe this is a moment where I just don't do anything. Do nothing. Ask for help. Ask for help. You're fixing a computer and you get angry, so something doesn't work, you got the wrong screwdriver, got the wrong part. Do you smash the screen out of anger, or do you just put everything down, come back an hour later? By doing so, you realize you'll save a lot of money by just being hands off. Same thing with your career, same thing with yourself, with longevity, with your health. By realizing maybe I'm not supposed to just fix every single little thought I have. Maybe I'm not supposed to just fix how I feel right now. Maybe I'm just supposed to observe it, leave it alone, don't touch it, and just observe it. Just watch. One thing he talks about is seeing yourself in a third person point of view, like going outside of yourself and looking at how you feel and looking at what you're doing and what you're engaging with, and just kind of living passively until you're able to deal with it properly. In that way, you're able to give yourself empathy, compassion. Take some of that pressure off yourself. Like, Isaiah, you should be doing this, and you need to be doing this, you need to be executing on this, and this quote says, Eric Thomas said, Eric Thomas is up, and Gary Vee's over here working, and you got all these other people, all these other YouTubers are posting, and what are you doing? And then why are you struggling? All these other Air Force YouTubers, they're doing what they got to do. You got all these people around you, all these staff sergeants doing their job. All this pressure I'm just bombarding myself with, and no one else around me cares. To the point where nobody's pressing me. I'm pressing myself. Think about that. It's crazy. What else we got? It actually feels good to talk, because I spend my entire day silent. Can't vent to everyone, but somehow I'm able to come to YouTube and just properly articulate, get things off my chest, and then go to bed. But I plan on doing some editing tonight. I want to start posting vlogs again. Sometimes I don't feel in the right mindset to go live. So yeah, I plan on probably just posting more vlogs, just getting my backlog cleaned up. I might set that as a goal. I'm like, all right, for the month of March, I'm just gonna post vlogs, just clean them up. Which that's a lot to do, but we'll see. Sutter Studios asks, Do you have volunteering opportunities up in Alaska? Helping others can bring amounts of happiness and meaning. That's a good idea. That's a great idea, actually. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Sometimes the solution to helping yourself is to help others. Um, and if you look at the core principle of that, is simply stop thinking about yourself so much. Um, Now, of course, there needs to be a balance between realizing that I'm human as well, and that if I'm drowning, I can't save other people that are drowning. And just in the name of the principle itself, to say, well, giving is the ultimate, expression of love and kindness, and so I'm gonna, forego give myself help and just go help other people. That's more or less irresponsible. So it's imperative to find that balance, the nuance in between. But you're absolutely right as far as helping other people. Sometimes is the solution to helping yourself. On that, and just long enough to distract yourself to realize, all right, maybe I am blessed. Maybe I am not in the worst position. That doesn't solve all your problems, but it's a nice change of thought process to get your mind off yourself so much. So definitely a good idea. As far as opportunities up here, I mean, it's Alaska. Everything's frozen. You guys think it's bad in Texas? You guys think it's bad in the lower 48? Whatever. Whatever. I mean, Texas is different, pipes bursting and plow trucks and just a lot going on there. But what else we got? Appreciate you, Taylor. Appreciate you. Well, it's almost an hour. Yeah, I definitely recommend the book. You guys haven't heard of it, again, it's Awareness by Anthony DeMello. That's DE space MELLO. Awareness, Conversations with the Masters. I definitely recommend the audiobook. Apparently, it sounds like he's reading it live in front of the audience. And so he's able to interact with them, and you hear the laughter, you hear the oh, and the different responses and what have you. So it's definitely a more engaging way to engage with the book. But yeah, this is my second time reading it, and it's changing me one chapter at a time. And I don't give that type of praise to many books. I read a lot of books. There's probably only 2 books before this one that have greatly impacted me to the point where I immediately start trying to practice those principles. That's No More Mr. Nice Guy, Art of Seduction, and this will be number 3. As far as books that are just directly impacting my psyche, on the spot, and telling me, this is why you do this is why you need to stop doing that, this is what you can adjust, this is what you can fix, this is what you prepare for. I love books like this that are directly applicable and are not just surface level, over the counter prescription. No, give me the cure, not the relief. Give me the cure. What am I doing wrong here? What is the foundational issue? So I definitely look forward to getting back to therapy. It's a sad reality when we realize I need somebody to talk to. And YouTube is great for when you don't have those moments. But yeah, therapy is amazing. I definitely recommend it. But yeah, I'm gonna log off. I will see y'all in the next video. Appreciate y'all listening, and say what's good to your boy.